Hello, today we'll be talking about the well-known director and actor Peter Brook. So he's 92 years old and he was born on March 21st, 1925 in London. He's a son of immigrant scientists from Russia, and he performed his own 4-hour version of Shakespeare's well-known Hamlet at the age of 7. He was one of the youngest graduates of Oxford University, and his nickname was the Golden Boy. He did his first production, Love's Labour's Lost, at Stratford Theatre at age 21, and he spent the next several years staging acclaimed productions of plays. He worked at Covent Garden directing opera as well as designing the sets and costumes for the shows. He ended his experience with opera by calling it deadly theater. He always sought innovation in styles that would speak to modern audiences. So he directed plays with prominent actors, and in 1961 he directed one of his 7 films, Lord of the Flies. He was named as one of the directors of the famous Royal Shakespeare Company in 1962, but despite all of his success, he still wanted to continue to look for new, vibrant ways to create meaningful work. And that's when he got into theater of cruelty, which we'll speak more about later. And he never relied on the traditional approach of theater. He did a lot of different styles and different types of work that kind of tested the audience. He did a reinterpretation of Hamlet, during which a character developed and delivered an entire speech in Japanese. So the show was a combination of Shakespeare and Brook's dialogue about theater. Brook's end goal with most of his work is to find what separates all people, whether that's intellectually or culturally, and then find a common language within the context of the play. And one thing I found interesting is his overall, what he wants to do with theater, which is his type of work is highly experimental in the world of theater and is not accepted by all, but he believed that traditional theater has lost its meaning, and his journey was to learn about his own barriers and his own deceptions and to face them. Essentially, he was a theater scientist with an intellectual approach to theater. He wanted to discover the soul, and Brook had the courage to be an innovator in the world of theater.
Okay, so Peter Brook had many influences in his career, and one of the influences was Joan Littlewood, and he named her as his biggest influence, and she was called the mother of modern theater. She rejected the standardized form of commercial theater in favor of experimental productions of plays that were concerned with contemporary social issues for working class audiences. So yeah, he really liked her work. But the influence we're going to focus more on is Antonin Artaud and his idea of the theater of cruelty, which Carly said we we're going to talk about, which we will now talk about. So Antonin referred to theater as a practice which wakes us up, nerves and heart, and referred to cruelty as the unrelenting agitation of a life that has become unnecessary, lazy, or removed from a compelling force. And then that came to describe the theater of cruelty as giving expression to everything that is crime, love, war, or madness in order to unforgettably root within us the ideas of perpetual conflict, a spasm in which life is continually lacerated, in which everything in creation rises up and asserts itself against our appointed rank. In the words of Wikipedia, the theater of cruelty is a means by which artists assault the senses of the audience and allow them to feel the unexpressed emotions of the subconscious. So really what the theater of cruelty was trying to get at is the idea of an empty space and the audience just being completely attacked with the ideas and totally immersed in the theater. And so the idea was an empty space with the audience in the center, and then with really heavy on the sounds and the lights to completely immerse the audience. So Peter Brook took these ideas and used them with Shakespeare in 1964.
There's always this terrible moment at the beginning of everything when people come together And all of them are saying, what the hell's it about? What are we doing here? Why are we here? And here, it's to explore something that very few people really see as being a true and almost impossible challenge, which is making theatre that is real, that is alive at every moment, that touches one, and in which once hold doesn't let one go. Over the years, people have been plaguing me with requests, first of all, to come to a rehearsal, and then when I say no, they say, but I'll be like a fly on the wall. And I said, well, that's even worse. The fly is really irritating. And then they say, above all, we need to come to a rehearsal to see your exercises. This is what we're going to try to explore using this image, which we discovered over years of experimenting with different exercises, of the tightrope. The tightrope, which has a demand. Something in the imagination has to be true and real, and it has to take you from here to here in a way that's all the time alive and interesting.
Hey, didn't see you there. I'm here to tell you about the well-known Glenda Jackson. She is a British actress and former Labour Party politician. As a professional actress from the late 1950s, she spent 4 years as a part of the Royal Shakespeare Company, being particularly associated with the work of director Peter Brook. During her film career, she won 2 Academy Awards for Best Actress for Women in Love and A Touch of Class. Other award-winning performances include Alex in the film Sunday Bloody Sunday and the BBC television serial Elizabeth R. For the latter, she received a Primetime Emmy Award. And now, we're going to show you a real quick clip of Glenda
In a film directed by Peter Brook.
What kind of town is this? The sun can hardly pierce the haze, not? A haze made out of rain and fog, but steaming thick and hot, like the mist in a slaughterhouse. Why are they howling? What are they dragging through the streets? They carry stakes, but what's impaled on those stakes? Why do they hop? What are they dancing for? Why are they racked with laughter? Why do the children scream? What are those heaps they fight over? Those heaps with eyes and mouths? What kind of town is this? Buttocks lying in the street. What are all these faces? Soon these faces will close around me. These eyes and mouths will call to me to join them!
Now it's happening and you...
So we can apply Peter Brook's methods of acting to our own lives. Mason, I didn't see you there.
It's because I was playing hide and seek.
Oh my gosh, come sit down. Let's talk about how Peter Brook's acting methods can relate to us as actors.
Perfect. Let me get some notes.
Awesome. So, Peter Brook was all about using your imagination and simplicity in acting. So instead of using a lot of props and staging, it was more about like how can the actors make it seem like there's furniture and make it seem like there's like a glass of water has spilt. How do we make it look like that without having to physically show the audience? And I think that that's really cool and a really big challenge for actors because we rely so heavily on our costumes making us feel like the character or having that thing in our actual hands in order for us to feel like we're actually doing like whatever motion or physical being we're supposed to be doing. So I think it's really cool that his style of acting involves using only your body and mind to create the props, set, and costume, and then you as the actor is the most like important part.
Yeah, along with that, he really wanted to focus on the beauty in simplicity, and he stated that the human connection is the essence of good theater. So alongside that, he wanted to turn away from stars and create an ensemble and focus on improvisation and really just focus on the communication and the human connection, like I stated before. So yeah, he didn't really want, you know, all that fancy stuff. And later on, we're going to show a clip of him talking about how he is viewed as taking on the approach of simplicity. And he talks about how he got there. And I don't want to spoil anything for you. It's a really good clip. But you're going to see that.
Yes. So also, like, as an actor, actress, I feel like one of the biggest challenges is like connecting to your audience. And I feel like Peter Brook's method is all about how do you connect to your audience and like what do you make your audience feel and what do you want to have your audience like have a lasting impression when they leave the theater. So I thought that was really cool, the idea of having like the audience in the middle and then you being submersed all around the audience. I feel like that's like a super different style. I personally have never done that before. I don't know if you have.
No.
Yeah, and I feel like that'd be really cool and a huge challenge, especially for like blocking wise and like where you're going to be standing, how you're going to make it so the audience can see you, because I mean at one point obviously the audience is going to be to your like their back is going to be to you, so how do you make it so that the audience, every person in the audience gets a fair like chance to see all the actors and what they paid for. And just like the idea of relying on like bright lights and big sounds, and it's like a type of theater that really plays with like your senses. And I feel like adding the like 5 senses into acting for the audience is like a really important thing, not just like what they see, but like what do they hear, what do they like feel, do they smell something, like all of these senses like really like are they hot, are they cold, like things like that. It really adds to the theatrical experience.
Yeah, and you know, theater is truly about the communication and the telling of the story, and that's what this really focuses on, you know, the communication, the connection with not only the actors but the audience. And you know, when I was growing up and acting, I was always, you know, taught to like cancel out the audience and don't pay attention to them.
Yeah, and in some of the films, the audience and the actors actually, like the actors look right at the camera or right at the audience. And that's big, like breaking the fourth wall is like, for some actors, really, really scary. I personally grew up in like doing theater in a small black box, like, which was super immersive. You were right in, like the audience was like a few feet away from you, and like we would break the fourth wall a lot because, you know, we're kids, like it was super just like family friendly type theater. But then like, it depends on what show you're in, but like breaking the fourth wall can be scary for some people because it's like you're told to block out the audience and just focus on telling the story, where in this case the audience is part of your story.
Exactly. I think that really adds to the connection to the audience, and it'll really make them feel something. So I don't know, I would love to try this. This would be super
This
cool.
type of acting seems like it's you might be able to learn a lot from it and grow as an actor. And it's always good, like it doesn't mean that you have to get rid of the habits that you have or the acting style that you have, but it's always good to add to your resume of acting styles.
Exactly.
So we're both inspired by Peter Brook and hope to do some of his acting style while we're here at Michigan State.
Imagination.
Said to me, your way, your theory of simplicity, I gradually found, just practically, that the human being is richer than the greatest stage effects that exist. So gradually I began to see, well, we don't need that. We don't need that. And as you saw just now on the screen, in this we're down to a few colored chairs, which in fact it was my collaborator who conceived and designed. But in fact, you have to have, I'm afraid, a young director is unwise if he doesn't live through the same experience and by trial and error discover what today, in relation to what he's doing, is better if it's simpler.